One of the things Magic players lack is not only the ability to make the right play, but also social cues. It doesn't matter if it's Commander or 1v1. There's a lot of situations where you sit across from someone and they either just are really awkward or really terrible. The nice people do exist, and that's who I'm here to try and reinforce. In today's scenario, we're going over a Reddit post about someone that was bullying borderline here, or just being really mean to a new player. And I wanted to use this video to frame and set across some guidelines that you could use to maybe be that person to improve this situation, turn it into something more positive, because I feel like this is something that the Magic community lacks a little bit. So I'm not going to make this into a whole series, hoping this video can just act as that. But let me just rant about something completely unrelated for like 10 seconds. Why is it that once it turns dark outside, everyone's car turns into a flashbang, right? Like, what is with these whole LED cars everywhere? Like, I can't see anything when I drive on the road, right? Like, I feel like a boomer, like Unk Status here complaining about this, but like, I can't be the only one who has a problem with all of these cars and their high beam electronics weaponizing me trying to take a left turn and I can't even see. Anyway, let's just hop into the Magic video. I needed to put that out there. Also, you know the drill. Whether or not this situation happened, I don't know. You can vote about it down below. Someone comment down below, this situation happened. Someone comment, this situation didn't happen, and we'll see whoever gets the most likes at the end, right? Let's do that. A friend being a bully here every Sunday night Magic. I have an old friend that comes over every Sunday night for Commander. He's a nice guy outside of Commander, but he has a bad reputation for saying mean and judgmental things when playing Magic. Okay, so potentially a nice guy, but maybe this is a situation where like, oh, if you just get to know him, he's a good person. Those people are usually bad people. Last night, a newer player, he's only been playing EDH for a couple months, wanted me to try out his Stompy Gruul deck. I played a Mox Amber on turn 1, and the asshole responded by looking at my friend who made the deck and pointing to his head and saying, a Mox Amber in a deck with the ACOS commander? Genius. No constructive feedback, just a snarky remark followed by laughter. First of all, Gruul's Stompy, maybe there's an artifact sub-theme. Maybe, you know, we cast a Mox Amber. If then we followed up by like a tapped artifact duel or like an artifact land, maybe it makes more sense. But again, maybe there is an artifact sub-theme. There's a lot of mana rocks because we want to get up to the commander. There are reasons why we would want a Mox Amber, because then once we get up to the commander, the Amber's then online and maybe is used to cast something else with like that requires other colors. Like, there's like so many cool random things that people do. Who knows, right? My friend's smile immediately turned to a frown and he tilted with his head down. It remained that way for the rest of the game. Afterwards, he sat out and looked very sad. Yo, my man just wanted to play a cool card. Shout out to Mox Amber, truly. The asshole just continued playing, acting like there was nothing wrong. This group of friends isn't exactly known for their social IQ, but this was way too much for me to ignore. Banter is one thing, which I'm happy they brought up, but this obviously wasn't a well-received remark. I sent the asshole a message about how I wanted to talk about things tonight. I'm going to go over just how not cool that was and why he won't be invited back over if that happens again. Now, I think maybe this might be a slight overreaction, but it doesn't mean there shouldn't be something being done here, because you're right, someone's feelings were hurt, and the way it was hurt wasn't even context dependent. It's not like you said something like relevant and maybe like actually true, and then they were like sad and like, whatever, you go sit over there, you're being a bad person. Like, no, you didn't actually provide anything constructive. So there should actually be something being said, but like not being invited back ever. Like, if you're saying this group doesn't have good social IQ, like they probably didn't clue into that. And the whole micro of that, of whether they should and shouldn't, is a whole other discussion, right? Am I out of line here? I don't exactly have the most non-competitive EDH experience, but it seems pretty obvious that this is not acceptable behavior. Am I wrong though? OP edited here. For those who care, I spoke with the asshole last night and he just doubled down on everything. I told him he isn't welcome at Magic Nights anymore, which is crazy that he doubled down on everything. People who just can't take feedback. And he overreacted big time. The restaurant manager asked us to leave because he kept dropping F-bombs while loudly, quickly explaining why it was just a joke. Yo, the people that like swear way too much, oh my God, they're just like F, like everything. These are the worst type of people, right? And we're gonna go over this in a second. The type of people that are just like, this is who I am, I'm not gonna change for anything. Those are losers. Those are straight losers. This is probably the last time I'll be playing any sort of game with him. He's been told before that he takes things way too far. So how is he a nice person outside of Commander? Probably isn't. He himself has bragged about rubbing people the wrong way, but last night acted like it was totally new information. And therefore, he shouldn't even have to apologize. Needless to say, I'm embarrassed to have been his friend this long. That's fair too. Maybe a bit of self-reflection on whether or not he's actually a good person. But really what's going on here is there potentially initially was a bit of an overreaction to like not invite him at all, but then we got some more context, you know, someone that maybe swears a little too much, doesn't use like comforting language, like makes people uncomfortable, and then doesn't recognize how that is a bad environment for other people, and then goes about a situation that does make someone feel bad and doesn't have the social awareness to understand why maybe someone is not inviting you. I don't know, maybe I'm the one that's just hyper aware or something. Like I'm always looking at the mood of the table and I'm always trying to take it to a positive spin. I don't want to be yapping too much or talking. Like I'm not the one to force that, but I'm always looking at an angle to try to improve a situation for someone. At the end of the day, if someone is having a bad time, you can't force them out of it, right? Like in order to help someone, they have to want to be helped, right? As someone who's had minor work in a past work life in the addictions world, there's some relevancy here, although there's more complications there. Again, someone has to want to be helped, right? I think many folks can maybe agree with that, and maybe I'm outdated in that speaking. But when it comes down to changing behavior, I want to use this video to frame this situation and then talk about how, again, you as the person that maybe is the OP here, that has control of the situation and is aware maybe of the results, the action, and has the wherewithal to make changes in between, outside, and before. Let's talk about how we can go about that. So firstly, I want to talk about how the new players can be vulnerable, right? When we talk about the importance of keeping new players in the game, and this is beyond just Commander, into 1v1, past that, in casual, in competitive, everything. It is important to allow new players to thrive in a space, because there are so many ways to explore Magic the Gathering that all of them at this point are their own siloed just kind of section. It's their own city, country, everything. To go from Commander Nights to 1v1, to go from 1v1 to Commander, to go from constructed to limited, to go from casual to competitive. All of this is a massive jump in not only the scenario and not only the people, but in terms of also the language that you speak in many ways, the ways you communicate, the language that you use and how you represent your board state is very different in a competitive game than it is in a casual game. Things are slipped through. People forget their triggers. They do things later on. There are takesies, backsies in casual, not so much in competitive. And so these are the type of things that can make people very nervous. And so when it comes to maintaining the integrity for these new players, it's important not only for the format that you're currently playing, but their long-term transition into other formats as well, showcasing that this is an avenue of Magic that is a positive experience, whether that be 1v1 or Commander, and that other avenues of Magic can provide similar experiences through conversations. You might play a game of Commander and have someone have a conversation about how they came to the LGS the other night and played some Pauper, played some Standard, played some Draft, some Modern. They played Cube, they attended pre-release, whatever it is, another event, and that might be a way for someone to get into the game. There's so many people nowadays that are getting into the game through Commander, which is absolutely wild to me, but it's still a thing that happens. I literally met someone the other day that, great individual, by the way, great person at the LGS that started playing during Dragonstorm. And that honestly blew my mind. A great set to come in. It's just so new, you know, and they were pretty well versed in Magic. Magic was their first TCG. They played it really well. Like they were someone clearly that had knowledge of the game, that knew how to play, and this is someone that was going about kind of the higher levels of Magic. And I really enjoyed that. It was really cool to see that. And so I was really kind of attracted to the ability of potentially trying to guide this person if they wanted to. And so I was already hyper aware, right? I wasn't maybe talking more than I needed to, but if they had a question or if they wanted to explore a route, I was immediately trying to get the table or talk to the table in such a way to explore that, because I wanted to show that Magic can be open and honest to the things that they want, especially in the different environments. Making sure that Magic is accessible outside of price points, proxies, and sets and formats are so important. And again, it is important because of people's longevity in the game to showcase that in the wide world of TCGs with so many options out there, that Magic is one of the best options out there, not only in terms of accessibility with proxies in certain formats, with the way certain LGSs run their events in terms of how available they are, but also it's important because of not again only that market, but also showcasing the different ways that you can play, right? Many other TCGs right now, like Riftbound, you can really only play one way. Yes, you can play Riftbound in multiplayer. The multiplayer of Riftbound, it's I don't want to make comments here because maybe I might be going to Riftbound fully on the second channel. I'm still thinking about it. That multiplayer Riftbound is not, I'm not going to say anything. 1v1, and you have that with the One Piece TCG, and I was part of the movement to trying to make a commander format for that, and a lot of people were excited for that and how to curate a format, making a Discord and the type of conversations you have, the type of play patterns that you're okay with, and the conversations that could be added or removed or whatever it is. And so there's many different ways that we can be inclusive in the community and why it's important for exploration of Magic. Next up is, not only do we have to keep the integrity of our pipeline for Magic, but we also have to be careful of the type of people that who they are, right? This is the type of social dynamic of a person that is primarily only here to be themselves, even if that person is the worst person in the world, right? And I think, you know, there's a lot of therapy talk that goes around in the world now, and I think this is a deeper discussion that many people have already had at this point, but many Magic players may not have had this. The idea of, we have become so individualistic in the Western world, and it is to our benefit to a certain degree, but it's definitely past the point in the social media sphere in the post-TikTok era where we don't really think about the community. We don't think about the folks around us, and we don't think about the impact of our decisions on other people more than we think about that on ourselves. And again, that is to our detriment. And so we have this whole idea of we don't owe anybody anything, right? And that's my favorite one. I think I've kind of come around on this one, where you do owe, I am of the belief, this is my belief, that you do owe people something. That you do owe the people around you the respect and the time of the community that you want to curate. The world that you want, you must be a villager in that village to get what you want out of it. You must become a part of the community to reap the benefits of the community that you want. You have to be that for other people. You have to be the person potentially lending out cards. You have to be the person, trading out or saying, hey, I'll let you borrow this deck, or why don't you try this format, or something like that, right? You don't need to go out of your way all the time, but the rare moment where you can introduce someone to something and give them an accessible avenue to try it out, that is something that you owe to the people and at large to your community in general. The post-COVID era has made so many of us isolated and frustrated. And I know many people are already commenting in the YouTube comments down below, some anti-comment about this. And I don't know, most of the time people don't give a good excuse, but if you have some type of reasoning that you feel like is counter to this, go ahead. But I think most of the time it's just people that are hurt. And that's because it leads them to be the people who are like, I am who I am. The people like in this comment or in this OP post that are very aggressive in their language, or prefer dark humor, or are the marquee poster child of coworker music like Dax, who act a certain way and work to a certain audience, right? And so these are, like the Tom McDonalds of the world, right? Like the Canadian Facebook rappers that are like weird alt-right pipelines, like, I don't know, weird people, right? When it comes down to these type of people, we have to be careful about where they are in our spaces, because these are people that are hurt themselves emotionally, don't have any more capacity for emotional growth, even though they need to go seek that, because fluidity and flexibility in our community is the only way our communities grow. And there are too many times in the world where we look at a situation like in the Magic the Gathering or the world at large, where we make changes to rules to benefit or counteract the minor situation, the situation that we blow up to be the extreme. Why propose proxies when the majority of people will just stop buying cards. And that's not true in any way, shape, or form. If you want to engage in tournament Magic the Gathering, which can be improved in terms of its price structure by Wizards of the Coast, and once it is, people will have to buy Magic cards to go participate in that. If you want to go play Commander, there are LGS in so many environments, even CDH and certain 1v1 formats that are eternal that allow for proxies. You can go play proxies there depending on where you're at. And it's not true that if you allowed proxies in certain places that people would stop buying Magic cards. Similar to how it's not true that if you allowed, taxpayer dollars to go towards food stamps and people to actually live and buy food and afford to be able to live, because, having a house and being alive and, having food is a right, a human right, I believe anyway. That shouldn't be a hot topic. If it is, I don't know what to tell you. You're a loser. Those are the type of things that we need to be working towards. And so when it comes to these people, and I was talking these play patterns or in these kind of emotional stagnations, these are the type of people that are going to come across with these responses. They're going to go about an edgy joke, make an edgy comment, and we have to be aware of situations like this, especially when we're in a new group. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be able to go into an LGS. Maybe your friends don't play Magic the Gathering. You're the only one. You go in, and so you don't really know a lot of these people most of the time. Maybe you go a couple times and you recognize some people, but you don't play against the same people all the time. And so you have to be aware of everyone's emotions going into it, and you have to be able to approach these situations in a positive manner from the get-go. And so this is where, when these things don't happen, things explode, right? Like when the new player is not protected and the bad personalities come together, a mixture of factors that are outside of our control, like a new player coming in and someone else's own personal trauma, comes in and creates a bad situation. And so all of this is to highlight that no matter what you can do, and no matter what I highlight moving forward here, there are many things, the majority of things, out of your control. And that is okay. I think a lot of people struggle in general with the idea that these things in life, including Magic the Gathering and many other things, are out of their control. They seek control. They seek an answer. And that is where a lot of people would argue people go to religion for that. People go to hard math. People go to hard logic, and they're not open to the emotion. Everything is black and white. It's not a spectrum of ideas. And I think we understand at this point that many things in the world are a spectrum. I think that's true relatively so. If you think about the definition of a spectrum, right? Like everyone, for example, is likely on the autism spectrum or whatever spectrum. You could be a 0 on that spectrum. You could be high up there on a number on the spectrum. I believe so by what I believe to be the definition of a spectrum. And so by that, we have to understand where we can come in and control what we can, what we have control of, and how we can steer a situation like this in a positive direction and actually have a better outcome for not only the person making the bad decision, but the new player as well. I should also caveat this by saying, like, I have no professional designation to be giving you advice on any of this. I am just a lonely little dude on the internet. Okay. You can tell me to screw off. You can tell me to not listen to any of this. This is just stuff that I have kind of implemented in my own games of Magic the Gathering and in parts of my life that have led me to better outcomes. So again, I am not a therapist. I am not some type of social engineer or whatever. I haven't written a book on any of this. I haven't done that. So feel free to take my opinion with a grain of salt. So I'll give you that caveat before someone tries to sue me. But when it comes to changing things, right? The first thing is setting expectations with maybe like a rule 0. And what I like to do is I do like to have that banter. I do like to be able to talk smack with my opponents. But what I make sure of is not only am I setting that rule 0 expectation, right? So number one, we're setting expectations, but we set the rule 0 expectation as to how we open up in our game. And I straight up am like, hey, this is my commander. So for example, the other day had a great rule 0 conversation, in my opinion, with my Obeka deck. Here's my Obeka deck. These are my initiative tokens. Everyone has one, so feel free to grab one when it comes up. But my deck is going to be putting out the initiative and just gaining value from there. Honestly, there is one convoluted infinite out there. If I get it out, you guys are probably losing the game anyway. So feel free to battle it amongst each other. We're just going to be having some good old fun with the initiative, right? That is my kind of rule zero conversation with Yobeka. We have some back and forth, people have some banter, and I set the tone of that. I've already said, hey, if I go about my crazy combination, you're probably losing anyway. So you know what? Don't even bother looking out for it. And that's the truth, right? I have Peregrine Drake and the friggin' thing on the boat. I'm forgetting the name of it with Soul Bond, but someone will let me know in the comment section. But that is a card. Those two cards together can generate infinite mana, and then I can soul bond the thing, Deadeye Navigator. There it is. I can soul bond the Deadeye Navigator onto another initiative creature, and with that infinite mana, I can infinitely flicker a initiative creature and then go through the trap mode and you know, kind of deal a bunch of damage to someone. So that's fair in and of itself. And so I've also outlined how I'm going to play this game, what I'm looking for, and I've outlined an expectation of how I'm going to play the game and what my opponents can do to it. I then expect the same thing from my opponents in a certain way. And if they don't give me that, that's fine, but then I'm going to play accordingly. I'm going to be hiding information. I'm going to be telling you in a certain way. And I'm going to address the outlying point of, hey, you're not telling me that? All right, I'll keep that in mind. But I'm going to do that in a positive way and be like, you know, hey, I appreciate the secretive ways. You know, I'll see what you're up to. And I might even try and swing at them first to draw a little bit of attention, right? And so if people aren't comfortable with this type of conversation, that's fine. That's the expectation that they should then set, because I'm setting an example of something that I want to have. They can then adopt that. So setting the expectation. I've set a good one. I've set a clear one. And if people don't want to follow that, that's fine. It's up to you then have that counterpoint. I'm going to continue that same level. I'm going to continue to be that positive person. I'm not going to take offense unless you start attacking me. Then address the problems that come up in the moment in a calm manner. So what you can do, I'm kind of reading through some notes here. What you can do is if someone straight up says something negative like OP said, right? Like 8-mana commander, Mox Amber, very smart. You don't even know if that deck has a bunch of legendaries in it. Maybe it's a legendary Gruul typo. Who knows, right? And so those are the type of comments that you can make. If you are someone that is in control of the situation, maybe has an above average understanding of the game, then you know that Mox Amber generally is going to be played in a deck that is able to synergize with it. You say, hey, you know what? There might be a bunch of legendaries in here. I'm pretty sure this Mox Amber is in here for a reason. And even if it's in here just to be cool, the card is freaking powerful. I can't wait to use it. Great. So you've set the expectation of, no, you're kind of dumb. The deck could be built like this. I don't know. And then it gives that person who built it an opening to be like, yeah, I think I did kind of build it like that. Or say, even if it's not, it's still a powerful Magic card. Give some context. You're excited to play it. That's it. You don't need to oversell it. You don't need to be like, oh, when I play Modern, this card isn't, we're not playing Modern. Okay. We're not playing Legacy. We're not doing any of that right now. Okay. Just give it that context and move forward, right? Calmly address it. And this specifically is an addressing that redirects, right? So you bring it back to the deck, build the deck itself, the card itself, not the player. You bring it back to the game itself. We are not talking about the player. You can also address it in the moment and be more direct if that is the type of thing that you're into and you feel confident with in your delivery, right? You don't want to be too mean to this because this can cause reactions in people, right? And you could just say, hey, let's keep things positive. You know, no need to roast people's decks. I'm pretty sure that we have a really good reason for Mox Amber, and I'll showcase it in a second. And then maybe that gets people something interested to be about, like something interested to look forward to, I should say. I don't know what the hell I just said there. But maybe you have something in hand that the Mox Amber is going to be able to use. And so people are already attracted to something. Or, hey, you know, constructive feedback only. Like, you know, Mox Amber's in here for a reason. Is there a reason you believe it shouldn't be in here? Like, I would only really go that route if this is something, a situation where the opponent, in that case, the deck builder, isn't reacting badly, right? So again, addressing it calmly, being direct, or redirecting it away from the person to be just the deck itself. And then past that, you can then have that conversation. So as like point A-1, you can address it calmly as well after. Just like OP did here, you have that conversation and say, hey, I didn't appreciate you having that conversation. You know, we've been friends. I value you having here. But I think your comment like really upset that person. And I'm hoping we don't do that anymore. You know, yeah, you know what? Maybe you even agree with that person. Maybe you say, hey, you know what? The Mox Amber wasn't really that great in this deck, but maybe this is something that they just pulled and they wanted to put it in a commander deck and just thought it was cool because it was a Mox. That's a pretty legit reason. How about we have constructive feedback with that person and say, hey, yo, this card would be pretty cool. There's actually a legendary that would work with this, that actually might work with a card like Mox Amber. And then you could put Relic of Legends in there and artifacts, that equipment that are cheaper when you equip it with the legendary. And like, there are ways that you can make this work. Or maybe you put Mox Amber in something else. Like, you have constructive criticism, not only with that person, but then again, you can have that by extension as a C, as a point C, with that conversation to the person that made the deck. Say, hey, let's look at how we can make this deck faster, or Mox Amber and Gruul Stompy, like, that's kind of interesting, but like, what is the synergy that you're working with? Is there an infinite that I'm aware of, or something like that? And be direct with that person, because they built it. We're in an open conversation. We're promoting open conversation in the game and being open with each other, just about not only interactions that we have, but other things going on. And so that is the way that we can have that not only constructive feedback, but open the channels to know that we are okay with making a joke here and there. Because what I find, especially the other day, I went to face-to-face games in Toronto. It's a couple Fridays ago. It was Halloween night, actually. What is it? My friends did not have plans to invite me to, so whatever they did, I guess they left me out of it. Maybe that's me being a little salty. I love my friends. I'm sorry. I love my friends. But when it comes to that plan that I had, I'm going to go play Commander at face-to-face games. It was a great night. I met some people. It was pretty cool. We went to go have fried chicken after. Long story short, with that play group, there was someone in that play group that was a little bit, maybe quieter than the other two in the group. They were all friends. Based on kind of how I talked to them later that night, and they all kind of have a cool Discord that I joined and everything. And so they're all friends, but one of them was definitely more quieter than usual, especially because I'm a stranger. I'm coming in, I'm maybe talking a lot more than they're used to. The other two went out to have a smoke and everything, so they came back in and they're having fun. They're talking with me. They're excited to have someone come in as like a fourth. They were playing like 3-player games. And so as we started having these conversations, I was very open about not only my rule 0, but making positive remarks about their decks. Oh, I really love that commander. Oh, I actually played against that the other day. And like, to the quiet person, like, hey, that commander is really powerful. How did you build it? Did you build it this way? They're like, yeah, I kind of did. I'm like, I'm excited. I love when it's built that way. Right. And so you kind of emphasize what they're like, you bring up more positive reactions to what they're saying, and you continue that. And then maybe somewhere in there, you bring up like, are you sure you want to play that way? Or that's a really weird thing to do, right? Because I would actually do it this way. And then you may say something rhetorical that actually isn't the better thing to do, right? Like you may say, a Cavern of Souls comes down, and a remark I always like to make, Cavern of Souls name Eldrazi. My favorite thing to say now is like, are you sure not Bison? Kind of referring to, a new creature type that isn't as popular. But, it's always like the classic joke people can make with Cavern of Souls. Like, are you sure that's what you want to name with it? And so these are the type of conversations you can have. And then all of a sudden that person that was more quiet is more, kind of warmed up to the table. They're having more conversations. They're having banter with me. And like the game gets more exciting because they then understand that this is an environment where they can have those jokes. They can have banter, and we're not going to take it badly because the majority of the time we're having that positive interaction. We can have the banter and the negativity every so often, but we know that it's in good faith. We're not actually being mean people. And that's part of it. The intent is key. And clearly the person that was being talked to by OP maybe had a bit more of a negative intent. And that's where that direct conversation and bringing them out of the conversation and the group in general is probably the way forward. But I'm hoping that it doesn't really lead to that, because celebrating that new player and being protective of that new player is important for the long-term health of the game, because the other people in that group, I'm assuming, are already enfranchised in the game, already exist. They will continue to play the game. And we want to turn the new player into someone like us. We want them to be a part of the gathering at large. Enfranchised deeply or not, maybe coming back only to pre-releases, that's a Magic player. A Magic player isn't someone that meets a quota every so often of a certain number of games every month. No, a Magic player is a Magic player. That's someone that engages with the game, engages with the content, plays every so often, or plays often, whatever it is. These are Magic players, and we want to be the person to at least promote that good environment here. So I'm hoping at least with this video, I was able to give you some tools and some maybe directionality and a framework to maybe be that person in your play group that comes across a situation like this and is maybe able to redirect. Highlighted why maybe in a situation where a new player coming in a new environment where they're uncomfortable, alongside bad actors that aren't looking towards the betterment of a community at large, come together to create a bad situation that may be out of your control due to those factors, but you do have parts of it that you have control over, and you can use your words to help fix that situation. You know, not leading to direct conflict and fighting. Your words have power. Words have meaning. We've seen this in history, right? And we can apply that in a small scale to Magic the Gathering. So hopefully this video has been informative to you. Again, I am no expert on this. These are things that I have done to help better my community in many ways and better the games that I have played, and I have found them to be successful. People still think I'm annoying as hell, that I'm dumb, the opinions I have are stupid. That's fine. I say dumb things every so often. But like, when people say like I'm a bad person, I do take that the wrong way, because I genuinely do everything in my power to not be that person. And if I am, like I tell people all the time as a joke, like if I'm the person that smells in the room, please tell me. Like I will leave and go change. I do not want to be that person, you know, and I am the person looking to try and improve in certain ways. I want to be the person that lights up a room, and or if not, I don't want to be the center of attention necessarily, but is contributing to a better experience in life, in Magic the Gathering, where it is. And I hope at least one person watching this video wants to be that as well. Let me know how you feel in the comment section down below. Let me know if you have any other tips as to how to kind of go about this, improving a situation that went negative here, and how we can maybe look at a situation like this, improve it in the future with some of these tools. How have you done that? How do you look forward to doing that? And maybe is everything I'm talking about just absolutely dumb and senseless? Is Magic unchangeable, or is Magic just where it needs to be perfectly, and the Gathering is amazing? I don't know.